Tyler and me, we've turned into the guerrilla terrorists of the service industry. Dinner party saboteurs. The hotel caters dinner parties, and when somebody wants the food, they get the food and the wine and the china and glassware and the waiters. They get the works, all on one bill. And because they know they can't threaten you with the tip, to them you're just a cockroach. Tyler, he did a party one time. This was when Tyler turned into a renegade waiter. That first dinner party, Tyler was serving the fish course in this white and glass cloud of a house that seemed to float over the city on steel legs attached to a hillside. Part of the way through the fish course, while Tyler's rinsing plates from the pasta course, the hostess comes in the kitchen holding a scrap of paper that flaps like a flag. Her hand is shaking so hard. Through her clenched teeth, Madame wants to know, did the waiter see any of the guests go down the hallway that leads to the bathroom part of the house? Especially any of the women guests? Or the host? In the kitchen, it's Tyler and Albert and Len and Jerry rinsing and stacking the plates, and a prep cook, Leslie, basting garlic butter on artichoke hearts stuffed with shrimp and escargot. We're not supposed to go in that part of the house, Tyler says. We come in through the garage. All we're supposed to see is the garage, the kitchen, and the dining room. The host comes in behind his wife in the kitchen doorway and takes a scrap of paper out of her shaking hand. This will be all right, he says. How can I face those people, Madame says, unless I know who did this? The host puts a flat, open hand against the back of her silky white party dress that looks like her house. And Madame straightens up, her shoulders squared, and is all of a sudden quiet. They are your guests, he says, and this party is very important. This looks in a really funny way like a ventriloquist bringing his dummy to life. Madame looks at her husband, and with a little shove, the host takes his wife back into the dining room. The note drops to the floor, and the two-way swish-swish of the kitchen door sweeps the note against Tyler's feet. Albert says, "What's it say?" Len goes out to start clearing the fish course. Leslie slides the tray of artichoke hearts back into the oven and says, "What's it say already?" Tyler looks right at Leslie and says, without even picking up the note, "I have passed an amount of urine into at least one of your many elegant fragrances." Albert smiles. "You pissed in her perfume?" "No," Tyler says. "He just left the note stuck between the bottles. She's got about 100 bottles sitting on a mirror counter in her bathroom." Leslie smiles. "So you didn't really?" "No," Tyler says, "but she doesn't know that." The whole rest of the night in that white and glass dinner party in the sky, Tyler kept clearing plates of cold artichokes, then cold veal with cold pommes duchesse, then cold cauliflower à la polonaise from in front of the hostess, and Tyler kept filling her wine glass about a dozen times. Madame sat watching each of her women guests eat the food, until, being cleared the sorbet and dishes, and serving the apricot gâteau, Madame's place at the head of the table was all of a sudden empty. They were washing up after the guests had left, loading the coolers and the china back into the hotel van, when the host came in the kitchen and asked, would Albert please come help him with something heavy? Leslie says, maybe Tyler went too far. Loud and fast, Tyler says how they kill whales, Tyler says, to make that perfume that costs more than gold per ounce. Most people have never seen a whale. Leslie has 2 kids in an apartment next to the freeway, and Madame Hostess has more bucks than we'll make in a year in bottles on her bathroom counter. Albert comes back from helping the host and dials 911 on the phone. Albert puts a hand over the mouth part and says, "Man, Tyler shouldn't have left that note." Tyler says, "So tell the banquet manager, get me fired. I'm not married to this chicken shit job." Everyone looks at their feet. Getting fired, Tyler says, is the best thing that could happen to any of us. That way, we'd quit treading water and do something with our lives. Albert says into the phone that we need an ambulance and the address. Waiting on the line, Albert says the hostess is a real mess right now. Albert had to pick her up from next to the toilet. The host couldn't pick her up because Madame says he's the one who peed in her perfume bottles, and she says he's trying to drive her crazy by having an affair with one of the women guests. And she's tired of all the people they call their friends. The host can't pick her up because Madame's fallen down behind the toilet in her white dress, and she's waving around half a broken perfume bottle. Madame says she'll cut his throat, even if he tries to touch her. Tyler says, "Cool." And Albert stinks. Leslie says, "Albert, honey, you stink." "There's no way he could come out of that bathroom not stinking," he says. Every bottle of perfume is broken on the floor, and the toilet is piled full of the other bottles. They look like ice, Albert says, like at the fanciest hotel parties where we have to fill the urinals with crushed ice. The bathroom stinks, and the floor is gritty with slivers of ice that won't melt. And when Albert helps Madame to her feet, her white dress wet with yellow stains, Madame swings the broken bottle at the host, slips in the perfume in broken glass, and lands on her palms. She's crying and bleeding, curled against the toilet. "Oh, and it stings," she says. "Oh, Walter, it stings, it's stinging," Madame says. The perfume, all those dead whales and the cuts in her hands. It stings. The host pulls Madame to her feet against him, Madame holding her hands up as if she were praying, but with her hands an inch apart and blood running down the palms, down the wrists, across the diamond bracelet, and to her elbows where it drips. And the host, he says, "It'll be all right, Nina." "My hands, Walter," Madame says. "It'll be all right." Madame says, "Who would do this to me? Who could hate me this much?" The host says to Albert, "Would you call an ambulance?" That was Tyler's first mission as a service industry terrorist, guerrilla waiter, minimum wage despoiler. Tyler's been doing this for years, but he says everything is more fun as a shared activity.